Everyone. So this is my first time posting a screencast, but I'm going to do my best to walk you through some of our homework for this week. We are going to be talking more about themes. As you know, we've been doing a lot with themes. If you can remember weeks and weeks ago, some themes might include honesty is the best policy. Think to yourself right now, what's another theme you remember? A theme is a universal lesson that often a fairy tale or a myth or a folk tale wants to teach us, always in fiction, does not apply to nonfiction. And the theme is a short statement that is true of all humans. So, we're going to be talking about different cultures and themes and topics across cultures. You will see a Google slide of this in your homework. And just for tomorrow, Tuesday, I want you to work on only up to pages 9. So you're going to read themes and topics across cultures and then go through. On page 3, it's going to ask you to type right into the Google slide in your own words what each of these is. What's a topic? What's a pattern of events? What's theme? And what does culture mean? Now, culture we haven't actually explicitly talked about in class. We've touched on it in different ways, but culture means the ideas, beliefs, and values shared by a group of people. Stories, myths, and traditional literature reflect the values and beliefs of the culture from which they come. So I would say our classroom culture are some of the agreements we made that we all signed on that class contract way long time ago in September, right? That we respect each other's wishes, that we are kind at appropriate times. We've created a class culture. Not all of us share all the same ideas, beliefs, and values, but we do share some that we agreed on. We treat other peoples with kindness and respect, right? And so, sorry about that noise. That's an example of a culture, and in other countries, there's other cultures. And when we did the winter holidays around the world, we learned a little bit about that too. So in your own words, you're going to type in here, not with gibberish, but with real words. What is a topic? And I want to say topic is different, right, than theme. Topic of a piece of literature is the subject. So the topic might be baseball. Okay, let's say there's just a fairy tale about a baseball player, but then the theme is going to have hard work pays off. I'm just making that up. The topic will be 1 or 2 words. It's very short, and I know that can get confusing, so just keep that in mind. We're going to keep going. The next page on your Google slide, I have to remove my video. Oh no, I don't have to. Is asking you, how can you find the topic, pattern of events, and theme in a piece of literature? So the woman who made this slide, Mrs. Mendoza, shared this with me, and it's a great resource, wrote down some themes for this assignment. Accept others' difficulties. Honesty is the best policy. Growing up is a challenge for everyone. To succeed, we must first believe that we can. Be happy with what you have. Hard work can bring great reward, right? But these are definitely not all of the themes. And I know some of you remember a lot more themes from those yellow theme cards we did during today's tasks and the piece of paper I gave you, which might be in the bag of stuff you brought home with more themes. You can also Google 5th grade theme ideas if you're trying to trigger your memory. But here's a list of a few to start out with. Page 4 is asking, how do we find the topic, right? And I suggest, remember, the title is a big key. Pictures, if there's pictures. Doing a book walk might help us find the topic. But then also annotating, reading and taking notes. What pops out to you? What makes you wonder? The pattern of events is in order. So the YouTube video I posted before spring break reminded us we have an introduction where the characters are introduced and the plot is given into us. And then we have a rising action, right, where we start to see a little bit of a conflict going up the mountain. Then we get to the climax, the top of the mountain in the plot, and this is always the biggest problem. This is the main intense action in the story. And then after the climax, we peek back down, right? And this is really important because it doesn't mean that everything is better and everything is solved. There's still, the falling action. There's still a little bit of, the worst is over, but there might still be some conflicts, some issues. And then we get to the resolution. Unless there's a part 2, I know some of you have read Harry Potter and other stories, Lord of the Rings, where each builds on each other, and the resolution at the end of each book isn't actually really solved. It just leads to the next book. But in most cases, the resolution is tying up all those conflicts, the problems get solved, and everything gets smoothed out. So how can we find that pattern of events? I just gave you some clues. And then theme. How can we find the theme? We know a lot of it has to do with characters, and I'm going to remind you of Steele to think about what the characters saying, thinking, what their effects are on others, what their actions are, what they look like, right? That helps us. Once we see what the characters are doing and feeling and thinking, we might start to get an idea of the theme, the universal lesson. Okay, so you're going to have 2 passages to read, and they're both Greek myths. Haley and Seth, I think that you will be happy with this. And others I know also appreciate mythology. Sorry, friends. I'm still learning how to do this. So the first one is Thor's Mighty Hammer, and the second one is Perseus and Medusa. You're going to read both of these. And the cool thing about using the Google slide is you can stay on this for as long as you need to, right? You're going to have your own copy of the Google slide. Some of you have printers at home. You might want to print it out and even annotate on the paper, but not necessary. Then I'm going to ask you to do anyone remember what this is called? Starts with a V. Venn diagram. So what happens in Thor's Mighty Hammer? What happens in Perseus and Medusa? And how are they alike? Right? So compare and contrast. The similarities are in the middle. You're going to type right into here. And then I want you to move on to a comprehension quiz. It's pretty simple. It's asking what would best describe the topic, what would best describe the theme. And then one thing to keep in mind with the pattern of events, they actually want you to put them in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so that just reminds us, we wouldn't want to say 6 is the introduction, obviously, of a story. That would be a number 1. And it's asking another comparison on question 5. How did the characters solve the problems in the same way? So please remember race. I know you're going to try to get out of it, but we're going to restate the question in our answer. This is really important as we grow and you move towards 6th grade. So, how did the characters solve problems in the same way? The characters solved problems in the same way by, and then you'll answer. If you want even more detail, you could even say the characters in Thor and Perseus and Medusa solve problems in the same way. And we know we could even add in the same way by comma, because there's a little breath there, by, I'm trying to think, do we need a comma there? The characters in Thor and Perseus and Medusa solve problems in the same way by, maybe we don't need a comma. So this is where I have to stop and think and edit my work. We just keep going by, what did they do? And I'll let you fill in the rest. I'm just going to write, please use race so you don't forget. We have 1 page left for our homework, due Tuesday, but I'm going to ask you to complete this whole packet by Friday. So just a quick reminder that take it bit by bit. You don't need to do it all at once. This is another example of comparing and contrasting. So what was the setting in Thor? What was the setting in Medusa? Who were the main characters? And this does not need to be complete sentences. I'm not going to ask you for race on this one. You could just literally write for main characters, describe whether they are good or evil. If you list them, Thor, is he good or evil? We know he's good. Thor is good because, and then you type that in. Oops, I'm typing a little too fast for myself. So that's another reminder. I'd love you to reread your work like we've been doing with our editing and revising. Just make sure your spelling looks okay. Doesn't have to be perfect, but even you can tell as me, as a teacher, I need to go back and slow down. It's one of my goals, and check my work. This is it for what I'd like you to do Tuesday, but then if you have more time or you want to keep going, by Friday, I'd like the rest of these done. So we go through the same thing with fables, a fox and his skin, and the wolf and the goat. And the format is going to be the same. You'll do a Venn diagram, you'll answer a comprehension quiz, and you'll do a compare and contrast. Anansi, we know Anansi, and Coyote and the Hen. Folk tales, we've heard about them before. Compare and contrast, comprehension, and then a last chart. One more for fairy tales, Soot Face, which is a 2-page story, and it's a Ojibwe fairy tale adaptation, so a Native American family story, and then a Chinese fairy tale adaptation, Ye Shen. So this is part of that cultural piece of like, how are the Native American stories different and the same from the Chinese stories, right? Two very different cultures, but they might have a lot in common. You're going to determine that. And that's it. I am excited to see what you do, and please email me or message me on Google Classroom if you have any questions. You will just turn in this assignment on Friday, but I'll be able to check your work as you go and see how it's going. All right, thanks for being part of my first screencast.